SMA Watts here. We're about to do a deck tech on the new version of Tempered Steel I'm playing for Classic Heirloom. Um, Due to the changes in the Classic Heirloom price structure, I think it was a 25% across the board increase. Might have been 50% on Mythics, I think. Um, but commons can now be 12 cents, and uncommons can be 25 cents, which is most of what affected me. Rares, I think, go up to like 50 cents, which also brought in one card. So last week our Tempered Steel deck was a little bit more dirtily. This week we've been able to add um, Vault Scourge, Etched Champion, and Mishra's Factory, which makes the deck a lot more powerful. So this basic concept of this deck is it's mostly a white weenie deck that uses artifact creatures, even though they're slightly less efficient than normal white creatures, and Tempered Steel as a double anthem to make those individual creatures far more powerful. So what we're running Memnites, which are 0 mana 1/1s, which for cost are pretty good, but they're just not worth a card normally. Vault Scourges, 1 mana, lose 2 life, 1/1 flying lifelink. Also not terribly threatening by itself, but can help with a racing game. Signal Pest, 0/1 Battle Cry, but it can't be blocked except by creatures with flying at reach, so it sort of has pseudo flying. Um, Important to remember that it is evasive. Um, and we have Glinthawk Idol. Glinthawk Idol is really our one of our answers for Wrath of God because a Wrath effect can't hit a Glinthawk Idol unless it's on, and you should never turn it on during your opponent's turn, really. Um, so this is a artifact that gives you helps you build this towards Metalcraft without being as vulnerable as a creature while being a creature. Etched Champion. This is the rare that was that we got to add to our pool. A 3 mana 2/2 is not exciting, but a 3 mana 2/2 with protection from all colors, pretty good. Um, the deck does lack Cranial Plating, which would put it over the edge. Like it, we do not have any of the cards that Affinity has to just sort of push it into the ridiculous. Like we don't have Steel Overseer access, we don't have Cranial Plating, and we don't have Arcbound Ravager. So we're relying much more on the strength of Tempered Steel. Then we have our white cards. We have Court Homunculus, which is a functionally a 1 mana 2/2. I mean, we have what? Not counting, we have 20 lands, 4 of which can become artifacts, and then after we have 12. So we have 28 cards in our deck that are not and cannot be artifacts, but most of those are land. So most of our cards are artifacts, so most of the time he's a 2/2. Because he does count them as each other, so even 2 of them will just be a 2/2 on turn 2. Glinthawk, feels sort of like the weak link in this deck. I mean, it's fine, but it's a little slow. I don't know. Like, Glinthawk is a traditional part of the Tempered Steel deck. I'm not sure if I entirely like him, though. Like, I think he may be a little too weak for this card pool. Ethersworn Canonist. Um, I was going to pull Ethersworn Canonist for the Legionnaire, the Porcelain Legionnaire. But I realized that with Fact or Fiction, Jace, and Counterspell coming into the card pool, it's probably correct to keep Ethersworn Canonist in because it prevents them from playing lots of cards. Like, if they have Fact or Fiction in their hand, they either have to play it during their main phase, or if they choose to Counterspell, then they can't play Fact or Fiction. It kind of creates instead of the choke point being how many cards they have in their hand, it's they can only play 1 card a turn, and it sort of mitigates the card advantage. Dispatch is our Swords to Plowshares. Once again, we have 32 different artifacts, so Metalcraft comes about very often. And then Tempered Steels are Honor of the Pure, that affects all of our creatures except for Glinthawk, and gives them +2/+2. Sideboard was a bit, I didn't know exactly what to expect. So it's very much it can be divided into at least 3 basic categories. Burn, control, aggro, combo. So for aggro, we have our 3/1 first striker that we can bring in that can pretty well stop up the ground. And with a Tempered Steel becomes a real serious threat of a 5/3 first strike. Shrine of the Loyal Legions is a really powerful effect, but deck doesn't have enough land to really take advantage of it most of the time, I found. But against a deck that's going to slow you down, the inevitability of being able to just, at the end of their turn, put out 5 or 6 1/1s, potentially with Tempered Steel out, so they're 3/3s, just gives you that reach that you might not have had otherwise. Warmth is good against mono red. It basically negates their ability to use burn as a reach effect. They have to actually play on the ground with you. And your creatures, once Tempered Steel hits, are bigger than theirs. And Nevermore is sort of my, I don't know what you're doing. I have no idea what I might need to face. But I know that if I can land a Nevermore, a lot of fragile combo decks, I can just stop. It's just good against, like, it's very much a interesting catch-all for the, I don't know what this card should be in my sideboard. There's probably some decks that I could probably have a more laser point focus against without knowing the metagame because it just changed. Nevermore gives me the option of being able to go, okay, so you're playing like a Thought Lash main, combo. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and play Nevermore and say Thought Lash. And now you can't play Thought Lash until you bounce Nevermore. So that's, now if I have 2 of them, I might actually name the bounce spell I think they're playing. You like Wipe Away or Boomerang, so they can't bounce the Nevermore. And yeah, you can also name their protection spells like Counterspell, and then just nail whatever their thing is. But those are all situational and a little bit beyond the scope of talking about the card itself. But the card has a lot of play to it. So I enjoy Nevermore as just a generic sideboard card.